Hey guys, so just came in here. Last month we've been logging this area, and it's basically our whole middle draw adjacent to our lodge. It's probably the biggest wooded piece on our property here, and something we were lacking last year was the bedding. You know, we weren't able to hold as many deer. We had one good draw that was good for bedding, just a lot of ag, and this was all open woods. It still looks open right now, but our logger's doing a really good job. We got some film of him, you know, leaving the treetops, hinge cutting a lot of the smaller trees that he couldn't bring value from the mills from, and it's really going to grow up. You can see all the light that's coming in now, and originally most of it, as you can see, was just kind of like, you know, grown up weeds. We'd occasionally get some Kentucky grass growing in, but right now it's to really add to the bedding. And we were just talking about the redneck blind, and that's just up the hill. We just came down here a little bit, and this will kind of help in that lockdown phase specifically, where, you know, the deer aren't traveling very far from bedding, even late season, and the closer you can be to bedding without disturbing the deer is the best thing you can do. They're just not moving as far, and the bucks, you know, they're coming closer to the darkness hours. So that's kind of what we're doing, and this is a long draw. It's probably 80 acres of draw, so should add a lot of bedding to be able to hold deer in the winter and kill more big bucks during the lockdown phase.
So one of the things we're doing in here today is we're surveying. We've got our timber guys in here. They're doing a great job of being very select on the cut. We knew that there was a lot of poplars in here, and we were going to clean up a lot of that. And it was really dark in this particular bottom. You know, it was just a dense, mature hardwood bottom, and it was very healthy, very pretty. But you just weren't getting a lot of undergrowth, and so we needed to allow that sunlight to get in to increase the habitat for bedding and for reforestation. So a lot of what we did was we came in, and you'll see some TSI in here where we've come in and done a little bit of, you know, hinge cutting as we remove some of the bigger trees. We're going to do more of that. We're going to just lay down a lot of these smaller poplars that, you know, we're just not looking for as desirables. They grow fast. They are merchantable. So we are harvesting a lot of the poplars that are merchantable. Most of the poplars, I think, end up going to more of a general mill, just to be palletized and used to go into press board for furniture, things of that nature. So there is a good value to the poplars, but only once, you know, they get some pretty decent girth to them to where it makes sense for the logger to be able to transport them and that sort of thing. A lot of these smaller ones, of course, are not valuable, and so we're using those for hinge cutting to create some more temporary bedding until we get a season of growth on this and really give it a chance to come back. So in the meantime, I think as we go into next spring, we'll also come back through and burn this off, which again will really help for regeneration purposes and, you know, replace that carbon back into the soil. But in the meantime, we're still doing select cut through here. We're leaving a lot more of the white oaks than what you normally would if you were just strictly trying to, you know, get as much cash or raise as much out of the cut as you could. You know, obviously the white oaks and things of that nature are the more valuable. We are finding some cherry and some hickory, chestnut, things of that nature. The highest grade of those that they call the veneer, you know, we're pulling those out separately. Some of those, you know, can be used for finishing and may even be shipped, you know, as exports to Japan or China or other countries where they want to use that American cherry, as an example, for tabletops or bar tops or things of that nature. But you know, you basically have 3 grades of timber as this is getting cut. So you've got your pulp, basically. You have your nicer, you know, your nicer straight logs, and even something like this. This is not a huge tree. This is probably not one we're going to cut, but you know, it's not doing us a lot of good either. So a tree like this can be cut and can be used for timber purposes. But most of the trees we're cutting are probably twice this diameter. You know, we're cutting, you know, 18 or 20 inches or bigger in the diameter of the tree. So, you know, most of these will stand. That's why you see most of the trees that are still standing in here are probably, you know, 6, 8, 10, 12, 18 inches in diameter. But a lot of the bigger trees you'll see have been cut. Let's walk right down here and I'm gonna show you a few that we've cut. So I just want to take a second to show you an example of some of the trees that are being cut. So, you know, this is about the size of the merchantable timber in here. There's certainly some big Mac Daddies in here that have been cut as well. But, you know, you can see, I mean, this stump, you know, a little bit oblong, but, you know, probably, you know, 24, 26 inches in diameter. So, you know, good one to take out. And you just look at how much that opened up in here. As the sunlight comes up, we're here early in the morning right now, but you know, you're getting these big gaping holes now in this canopy. They're gonna allow this light to come in. Still some logs that are gonna get dragged out of here. You know, pulling them back up the hill one at a time. It's been a little wet. We've actually got a stand that I'm looking at right up on top of that hill on the other side of this bottom. And with this being opened up, as this forage grows, you get that regeneration. You know, a year or two from now, this will become a great stand, just a natural food plot in here. And in this area, like a lot of topography up here in the Midwest and in Illinois, you know, you have these bluffs, you have these little drop-offs, so they're sort of harvesting it in stages. You've got the lower bottoms that they come through and cut and pull back out or out the top of these bottoms. And then up above these bluffs, you kind of have that top of the ridge that they're cutting and then pulling up to the top. So usually they'll take the logs in two directions. They'll pull them down and bring them down a draw or up a draw, which is why you see we've added some additional, you know, arteries, which is going to really help us out for access. One of the things I wanted to point out, great time to improve your access. While you got loggers in here, they got dozers going, things of that nature. You know, you're making some money to lower your basis in the land so you can hold it long term to grow more timber. One thing about it, you cut out some of these bigger trees. You know, bigger trees are great, they're beautiful. If they're white oaks, they're certainly putting out great acorns and that thing. But when you cut back and you allow your smaller trees to start to take off, I mean, these trees are growing, you know, they're double in size a year. They're growing 20, 30, 40%. So from a business standpoint, from a return standpoint, to harvest some of the value, some of the capital that's been created here over the last 40 years, and then start putting it back into your smaller trees that are growing back, I mean, your return just went from 2 to 4% a year or something of that nature here in value to, you know, 20+% growth on these smaller trees. So not only is it better for the habitat, and you can come in and add to your, you know, access. That was a big deal with our farm. When we first came in, as nice as it was, we only had 2 ways to get around this particular draw. We'll go in and show you some of the new roads that we've cut in, both parallel to the bottoms as well as good crossings. But that will really allow us better access to get in and out of certain stand locations without having to run all the way up and down these draws and, you know, really educate the deer